Hey everybody, this is Adam Sweet from Soul Astrology, and today we have a special Christmas edition. I thought it would be really fun to address some of the symbolism behind Santa Claus and what the astrology has to say about it. So this all came about because I was having a conversation with a fellow astrology student, and they said, don't you think Santa is the most Jupiterian figure? And I thought to myself, yeah, I could see how you would say that. Keywords that are often associated with Jupiter are things like, let me just read off my list here. Generosity, expansion, abundance, bigness, hope, plenty. So those all very much sound like things you could also associate with Santa Claus. On the other hand, though, I have seen older depictions of Santa Claus. I grew up with a father who taught art history, and he showed me over the years these various other depictions of Santa, and they take a much more nuanced approach and maybe even what you could call a more Saturnian approach. Now, when we think of Saturn, we often think of keywords like seriousness, separation, maturity, isolation, limitations, orderliness, even things like control and discipline. And those are also things that we associate with Santa Claus. Parents all over the world have that secret little power in their back pocket about if you're naughty or nice, Santa will bring you stuff, or maybe not. So you better be good for goodness sake, right? So to me, I feel like the archetypal figure of Santa Claus is more nuanced than just calling him a Jupiterian figure. So what I thought would be really fun is to look at some of the images of Santa Claus over the years and see kind of where those fall within the astrological symbolism, and then also take a look at some of the astrology. So let me go ahead and share one of the earlier image. This is an image of Saint Nick or Saint Nicholas. Often Jupiter is associated with religion, and authority figures. So clearly this would be an image that you could associate with Jupiter. Now, Saturn rules things like old age and wisdom. So I think you could also see Saturn in here with the gray hair and the beard, and clearly this is a very wise, saintly person. So we have a blending of the archetypes there, in my opinion. Now, if we go forward in time, this is one of my favorite images that my father showed me when I was a kid. Like I said, he taught art history, and this image always stuck in my head. As you can see here, this is from the 1600s and is a oil painting that depicts the Feast of St. Nicholas. So where is St. Nicholas or Santa Claus in this picture? Let me point him out to you. He is this creepy figure here in the background, sneaking out the back door behind this curtain after he has dropped off these presents and caused chaos in this household. So clearly this little boy was naughty. He is upset and did not receive anything, or maybe not what he wanted. And this little girl, I guess, was nice because she has this lovely doll, and she is sort of bowing away from her mother, I would assume, in almost like a greedy type of fashion. So I feel like this image just paints so much nuance into the figure of Santa Claus and what it represents within a family. Also, to me, this is an incredibly Saturnian depiction of Santa because we have a older looking individual here in black sneaking around and causing mayhem. So I'll leave it up to you what you think about that one, but I'm going full Saturn with that image. Okay, so as we go forward in time, I think we can start seeing some pretty dramatic changes. So this is from the 1860s. Now, this is what I would call the more classic depiction of old Saint Nick. He's got the jolly old belly and a big beard. And to me, this looks like Zeus through and through. Zeus is Jupiter. And I feel like this is a very Jupiterian depiction of Santa Claus. Now, if we go forward even more, everybody is familiar, of course, with the great Coca-Cola version of Santa Claus. Coke really is famous for using the red and white colors and sort of taking that iconic image that we all now associate with Santa Claus and using it in basically a very brilliant way to advertise their product, but also kind of instilling it into the zeitgeist of culture of what we think of as Santa. Now, this image to me also has a very Jupiterian feel to it. Now, if we go to the other extreme in cultures like Germany, Saint Nick actually has a helper who is this gentleman. So this is Krampus. Santa Claus doesn't have to take all of the credit now for basically being the bad guy. He has a sidekick who does the dirty work for him for the kids who are misbehaved. Clearly, this little girl, she got a basket of fruit, and this little boy is, I guess he's about to get spanked, and there are shackles there on the floor, and Krampus is clearly some version of a Saturnian demon. So that is clearly very Saturnine. Now, I thought what was really interesting is especially going back and looking at the more recent images where the imagery of Santa really starts to change. I looked up some of the astrological dates, and we have some really interesting things to look at here. So 1860 was the image of Santa with a jolly old belly, and I eliminated everything from this chart except for Jupiter and Saturn. So this is 1861, around the time at the beginning of the decade when that imagery of Santa really started to change into this very Jupiterian figure that we see and that we all love today. And so we have Saturn and Jupiter at the beginning of the decade there conjunct in Virgo. So I thought that was a really interesting blending of the symbolism coming together. Now, if we go to where was it? The 1930s Coke version of Santa. Now we have Santa Claus as an opposition between Jupiter and Saturn. And I think that beautifully displays that imagery of Coca-Cola really latching onto it and distancing themselves from that more stern, more disciplined Saturnian figure of Santa and more into a Jupiterian sort of hopeful abundance, he'll bring you gifts type of figure. Now, they're in an opposition, so that points to a little bit of tension there between those archetypes as well, which I also thought was really fascinating. And just for fun, I went ahead and pulled up the dates of the very first image I showed you. Or no, it was the second one. Here, I'll just share it again so we can check it out. This one, the 1665 to 1669 image, where we have the very Saturnian figure of Santa Claus there creeping out the back door after causing mayhem. And if we pull up the I think it was 1668. Yep. And we have Saturn and Jupiter here in an exact square during that time period. So another really interesting dynamic that they are making contact there, and that there is this expression of Santa coming out into the cultural zeitgeist. Okay, so I hope you all enjoyed that. To me, I just think it's really interesting in mundane astrology, which is where we look for like mundane events or mundane sort of cultural archetypes to come forward and express themselves in the astrology, what's happening in the sky at that time period. To me, it's just so interesting to see Jupiter and Saturn in this kind of dance throughout the centuries, and that symbolism painting itself forward into the culture. And I'll leave it up to you all, whatever you think. Do you think Santa is Saturnian? Do you think he's Jupiterian? Here's the beautiful thing about it all. Really, what astrology is all about is holding the tension of the archetypes. The most basic version of that is we have the sun and we have the moon, and those are the archetypal opposites, and they hold that tension beautifully and do this dance in the sky. And astrology is all about that archetypal tension of dark and light, and the beauty that is portrayed in our human world when those archetypes are held in a sort of tension or a yin and yang. So there's space for both of them, and the beauty shines through. And that's kind of what it's all about, right? So I think where I stand with Santa Claus is he's actually this really, even though he's changed into a very Jupiterian figure, there really is this beautiful tension that is held between the archetypal opposites, and that is shown in the astrology as well. So let me all know what you think. I appreciate you watching. Drop a comment, or shoot me an email, adam@soulastrology.com, and let me know. Thank you for watching. Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you have a good one. And really appreciate you taking the time to watch these videos. Take care out there. Be safe, and bye.